and asked him a question. What have you done? I would love it if that question gets asked of us when we're standing right up at the gates of heaven, about to go in, this question. So, what have you done? Now, some of you who were here on Reformation Sunday just a couple of weeks ago heard Pastor Nate and I go back and forth. He was talking to us about all of the ways that grace enters into our lives during that time. And I was trying to convince us all that works really are an important part of who we are. But I don't think that's really what was happening in this conversation between Pilate and Jesus. I think Pilate was realizing here was this man Jesus, a rabbi, and yet he was being handed over, the other leaders asking for him to be convicted. He wanted to know, what has he done? And I think maybe Pilate was even trying to release Jesus, giving him a reason for Jesus to say, well, I'll admit it, I did this. So Pilate could say, that's not so bad. You don't need to be punished for that. But instead, Jesus talked about this idea of kingship. Maybe what we realized is that Jesus could have said, I've been an interruption. Just as today it feels like all of these ways we hear about Jesus can seem like a bit of an interruption into worship, at least this regular flow about our lives. Jesus should be an interruption into what we think might be the regular flow of our lives. So that interruption, what did it look like to the Jews? It looked like Jesus offering forgiveness to people who had been labeled sinners. Just Jesus interrupted that. When people were going to throw stones at someone who they claimed was a sinner, Jesus physically interrupted that process. We heard Vicki read for us from Revelation about this one of Jesus who loves us and frees us from sin. Rather than sin feeling like it's something that binds us and holds us, Jesus interrupted that way of thinking and brought to us freedom for everyone, because we heard in Revelation that gift was given to all, even those who pierced him. Even you, Pilate, as you are standing in front of Jesus, this idea of love, forgiveness, and freedom is brought to you. Jesus interrupts the normal pattern of our lives. Jesus interrupted what it meant to be in power and to hold power for power's sake. And Jesus said, that's not a good reason to be in power. Jesus interrupts our lives as well. If somebody asks me at a certain point in time, what have you done? I'd love to be able to answer, I've just been an interruption. I've been an interruption into a world that had a system that was all together and worked fine for everyone for whom it was working just fine. And I interrupted on behalf of those who were labeled outsiders, who were told they weren't good enough, who were told that their lives couldn't possibly be reasons for God to love them. And I interrupted by doing two simple things: by loving God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength, and by loving my neighbor as myself. And I clearly don't do that all the time. I don't live my life enough interrupting a system where somebody might say to me, the way you're acting is not like you're part of this world. What kingdom do you think you're actually serving? I would love to serve Christ, the King. And I hope that I can do it in a way that just interrupts people's lives. If I can interrupt with a word of forgiveness, if I can interrupt with a word of love. When somebody asks me, what have you done? All I can say is, I just interrupted. For Christ is my King. Amen.